Hey, what's up everyone? So in the past video we learned how to make these two-dimensional shapes with level shifters and stuff like that, but we haven't really figured out how we can connect it to an actual box pleated model. So here's a few applications for those level shifters. The most probably obvious one would be the shells of beetles and stuff. This is not my design. This is designed by Kimuro, a Korean folder on Instagram. So that you can tell like the shell. He used like some actual +2 shifters to make the head and stuff like that. Another example would be, this is my martial artist, so obviously you can see I used it for the abs, so I widened it out here. That was the main use of it. And my favorite example is for this guy. This is a stone golem, my design, and you can see he's got these big rocks. Now these big rocks are all just made out of level shifters, which is pretty cool. So that's what we're going to learn today, how to actually apply what we learned in the homework in the last video and incorporate it into a regular box pleated tree packing, etc. So let's go. So before I get too far into it, I would assume that you've done at least one or two of the homework problems from last time, and once you found that you can do that on your own, then you're probably ready for this video. So this is the first problem. This is the easiest one, so I'm just going to go with this. If you haven't folded this one yet, if you haven't figured it out, I encourage you to pause the video, go back to the previous video, which I'll have linked in the description. Watch that, give it a try, and then come back, and then we'll learn how to actually get this thing into a design. Okay, but now before we do that, just forget level shifters for a moment. I want to talk about 1 unit flaps. So we're gonna go hands-on again. This is pretty important to have hands-on. And I want you to make an 8x8 grid. So I'm actually lazy. I like to reuse my paper, especially if it's not super used. Like this one. So this is the paper from the last video. I just unfolded it because it's still usable. So go ahead and grab an 8x8 grid or unfold yours from last time. And I'm going to draw a packing over here. I want us to fold it. So let me just draw the packing. Okay, those are the ridges, and then the hinges will look something like this. Okay, so we got this 3-unit edge flap, a 1-unit center flap, a river going down here, and a river going across. So let's go ahead and fold it. Now, this is not a full crease pattern, so this is just a packing, so keep that in mind. So let me just go ahead and pre-crease this. So let's make our ridges. We already have our grid, we just got to pre-crease the ridges now. So here's the 3-unit edge flap. Now there's 2 ways to collapse this. Because this is just a packing and not a crease pattern, it's not explicitly stated which way we're going to collapse this. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse it the default way, quote-unquote default, the way that you're probably most likely going to do it. So something like this, where we do the vertical pleats first, and then we go ahead and collapse on the side. And then we don't know whether this is supposed to be hinged up or down. I'm just going to go up because it's a little bit more natural. Here's our 3-unit edge flap, our 1-unit center flap, and then basically a 3-unit river, right? 1-unit river plus 2-unit river is a 3-unit river. So that's all well and good. So this is what we would do by default. If you saw this crease pattern, most likely at this point you would be folding it like this. However, the other way we could collapse this crease pattern, let me just unfold a little bit. Unfold with me. What we could do now is actually do the center flap first, like that, and then we do the vertical pleats, like that. Isn't that cool? And now the center flap doesn't lock, or sorry, it is locked. You can't swing it. Earlier we could swing it up and down. Now we can't. But here's the thing. Now when we fold it in half, we have a pleat. And what is that? What can we do when we have a pleat? We can level shift. Oh, look at that. We level shifted. Isn't that pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going with this. This is the basic idea. And then let me just show you another example. So that was with the center flap. We had a center flap that we turned into a pleat and level shifted it. Let's do one more together. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, those are the ridges. And then for hinges, we have this 4-unit corner flap on top with some extra pleats on the side, this edge flap, and then a 2-unit river. So I'm just going to unfold the thing here. Yeah, okay, let's go ahead and fold it. So we're going to start pre-creasing the ridges. Okay. Now let's do it the normal way first. So the normal way is we kind of just pleat on the side first. These pleats on the side, we do that, and then we just kind of start forming from the top and start just collapsing it. Something like that. This is what we normally do, right? Now let's go ahead and do it our new way with making a pleat. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to start with this edge flap. We're going to start with that. That's a pleat. And then we can kind of sink in and out, so to speak, for the rest of the way, like that. And then we can go ahead and level shift things. So we can actually level shift even this first one. Like that. Or the second one, we can also level shift this part. Yeah, see where we're going with this? So you see they are related. Like earlier I told you, okay, you actually need a horizontal pleat to make a level shifter, but now we have a way to do it, and we have a way to represent it as a flap. Yeah, okay, I'll explain that again in a little bit, but the other thing I want you to know is that you can actually, with the same flap, we can swing it down the other way, and we can make the pleat be like this instead. And now our level shifter is going to look a little different. Like let's say maybe we can do an axial -1, which is not normal, but it's something we can do. So like an axial -1 would look something like this. See how it goes below the axis? That's axial -1. So just wanted you to know that we can swing the pleats because it's basically the center flap. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Now my goal for this video is to get this homework problem, this shape, incorporated into a packing. So what are the steps we need to take to do this? First of all, we need a tree. What does this represent? How would this be represented on the tree? So the way we do that is we take a look at the side and we look at these pleats. You see that? So let me draw out what I'm seeing. So I'm seeing here so here's 3 units over here, from here to there, 3 units. Then we got these 2 1-unit flaps. You see that? One here, one there. We got this 2-unit, 1-unit flaps. And then we have this 2-unit river in between, so that's right here. This 2-unit river. And then we got these 2 1-unit flaps again, and then a 3-unit river there. Look at that. It's pretty cool, huh? Okay, now the other thing we need to write down before we go and pack it, we need to write down how much width are these center flaps taking up. So the way we do that is we would say, okay, this was a 16 by 16 grid, and how much free space were we left? Well, these 4 units, these don't really matter. If I just cut them off, the level shifter would still work. So we don't really need these 4, and these 4 are over here neither. So what are we left with? We can see that our level shifter is taking up 8 units of width, right, from here to here. 8 units of width. Okay, and so what that looks like, so let me just draw it out, for example, what I mean by 8 units of width. So normally, a center flap would look something like this, right? A 1 unit center flap would look something like this. And we can add width to it, so maybe like 2 units of width would look something like this. So we could just add these extra pleats to it. So 8 units of width means that our center flaps need to look something like this. And then there's 8 units in between. And of course, 8 or more basically. Because remember, we can always add extra pleats on the side, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, so these are what our center flaps are going to look like. If we wanted to do an 8 width edge flap, it's basically the same thing. So let me just draw the edge really quick. So let me just draw an example. So here's, let's say this is the edge. An 8 unit edge flap would just basically be an edge flap with these 8 extra pleats on it. Like that. So let's go over to Origami real quick. We're gonna pack this tree such in a way that we can incorporate this level shifter pattern onto it. All right, let's go. And we're going to go ahead and try to pack this in a packing rather than, yeah. So let me just let me draw the tree that we figured out, which again we figure out by looking at the pleats from the side angle. So let me just look something like, our tree looks something like this, something like that. And remember that they were 8 units long. So I'm gonna start with using center flap pleats. So let's just go ahead and pack 8 unit center flaps. So remember that what that looks like is something like this, and then there's 8 units in between them. Let me just draw the hinges around every flap. Okay, let's just start with this 3 unit river here. So let's just say a 3 unit river. No idea how long. We'll just go straight across, okay? And then we got our 2 1 unit flaps. So let me just copy that. And then we can put our second center flap right underneath that. Okay, now we got a 2 unit river going in between. So let's just make a 2 unit river. Okay, it's just going straight across for now. And now it says another set of 2 flaps. So let me just copy this. So another set of 2 flaps. So there's our second set of 2 flaps. And then another 3 unit river underneath. Like this. Okay, well that's all well and good. But we got these weird gaps on the side and whatnot. So now we actually have the flexibility to do what we want. And it depends on what else we want to have on the model. Like if this is an insect shell, we want to go start packing legs. So just for the sake of example, I'm just going to show you one way we can do it, just so we just get it good enough. So let me just make a duplicate of this. So select, copy, and I'm going to duplicate it over here. Okay, so instead of this 3 unit river, I'm just going to make this a, so let's bend this bottom river a little bit. Let's do it like this. Okay, and then now let's bend this 2 unit river. So let's bend it down to follow like that. And now I want to just fill up the space. So I'm actually going to expand these flaps, this guy out a little bit. I'm just going to, line it up over there. Same with these ones. So now these are actually not 8 unit flaps. These are a little bit longer, but that's okay. We're okay with extra flaps or extra pleats. And then this last one, let's just bend the river one more time. So remember E for extend, that's what I was doing there. And then we'll bend it down again. Okay, alright, does it make sense? Does that make sense, kind of what we did? So from what we did over here, we had our rivers running across, but we had these weird gaps on the sides. So what we did is we just bent the rivers, just bend them all straight downwards to kind of compact it. We had to expand these flaps a little bit as a result of that, but that's okay. And you know, these rivers you can bend however you want, right? Like, let's say I just wanted to bend it out like that, and then start packing something down here. That's totally fine. Just know that whatever you pack, whatever flap you pack in here, will end up in between the flap and the river. So it'll end up like down here, right? So just be aware of that. Okay? Alright. Now we're almost there. What we got here is a packing, but how do we get our level shifter in here? So I always like to duplicate things. I don't like messing things up, so I'm just going to duplicate it top, up here. Okay, I don't like these hinges, so let me just use edges to cut it off. Okay, and then also we have this little gap here, so I'm just going to fill in the gap real quick. So this extra flap we don't really need, but I just drew it in. Okay, so at this point is kind of like what we did on the graph paper. You know, these are 1 unit flaps which you can fold either as flaps or as pleats. And obviously we want pleats for our level shifters. I'm going to draw on Origami what that would look like. So I don't know if I'm just making more of a mess, making it more confusing or less confusing for you, but do you kind of see where we're going? You see we got these 4 pleats here, right? And in our homework, all we needed was these 4 pleats. Let's just do something crazy. Let's just slap it over. So what I mean by that is I'm going to just take this whole thing and I'm just going to copy it onto, yeah, boom, look at that, okay. Now watch this. So let me just fill in the gaps. All right, the extension tool is pretty nice for this. E for extend. Alright, you see where we're going now? If not, let me keep going. So let me use the G tool on the side. So this whole thing is just going to be pleats. G tool on the other side also. Now another thing we could do is, so we can use this alternating MV thing. So we know that it's going to alternate mountain valley. So start with M and here, and we'll just alternate. Now these are all mountains anyways, but okay, these are all mountains anyways. And then this last one's a mountain. Now, what are we left with? What else do we have to fix? We need to do some hinges. So, you know, you'll get this CP drawing knowledge just from experience. But let me just draw it the rest of the way so you can see where we're going. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Now, you see how this is like, it's basically a big edge flap with a bunch of center flaps on it. We pleated it up and we managed to squeeze in our level shifters. So let's fold it up and see what it looks like. Look at that. See that? That's our little Z shape or whatever. But the thing is, this Z shape is now on an edge flap. And we can go pack this into whatever we want and pack it into a full model and whatnot. Does that sort of make sense? I hope that sort of makes sense. Let me show you one more thing real quick. So let's let me remove this. Oop. Okay, so you see how the trash button's not working? What you do in this situation is you save and then reopen the document. And then it goes away. Also resets your position if you're a CP file, but whatever. Okay, let me show you one more thing. So here we use center flaps to make the pleats. Let me show you how you could use edge flaps. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to draw an edge down here, right along here. Well, okay, let me just draw it right along here. Okay, and I can just delete all this. And of course, you know, this stuff we can extend down. Doesn't really matter what we do with this stuff. And now, let me just highlight like what one of the edge flaps looks like. So like here's an edge flap, and you can see it's 8 units. This is what I meant by 8-unit edge flap. Okay, here's another one, right? Or, you know, this one is a little bit longer, but it's okay. We just have this extra space here, not harming anything. Here's a little border if you can't see that. Now let's fold it and see what happens. So you see, this also worked, right? So it doesn't really matter if we use our edge flaps as pleats or center flaps as pleats, as I showed you earlier on the green paper. So yeah, that's cool. Now another thing, we can actually trim it off a little bit more. So you see these wide, I guess pentagons, you can call them pentagons. Technically they're pentagons, they have 5 sides. But where are these pentagons located on the crease pattern? Well, they're right here. And as long as we don't cut into these shapes, we're all good. So we can actually cut off these two here, these 2 units, because we didn't cut into the shapes yet, the pentagons. So let me just trash this and we'll fold it again. There we go. Pretty cool, huh? Now this is exactly what is going on with the stone golems. So here's the crease pattern for the stone golem. Now what do you see up here? So you see what we did just now, right? We had these long edge flaps that we use as pleats. These long edge flaps here. And once you get pleats, you're able to do the level shifter. So here's this heart structure I've been pointing out. And remember, this is the +2 shifter, which brings you up to axial +3. It basically gives you extra width. So that's what that's what was going on here on the arms. And then let's see where else. And then down here at the legs, instead of edge flaps, it used like center flaps. These big long center flaps to make pleats. And then once you have those pleats, you can level shift them up. And that's how you make width. And then the body stuff is a little bit more complicated and weird, but it's the same idea. So this is an 18 grid. I think it's helpful if we give this a try. So let me just trim down this crease pattern a little bit. So here's a 16 by 16 grid. If you want to give it a try, I would encourage you to pause the video, fold it. Alright everyone, so I think that's good enough for this video. I was going to do like some homework problems and more in-depth examples and stuff like that, but it's already been delayed quite a lot, so I'm just gonna cut it off here, and in the next video we'll do like a full walkthrough example of more level shifting stuff, and then some homework problems for you to practice. So make sure to like the video if this explanation helped you, and subscribe if you want to make sure to see the next video when it comes out. Alright, thanks everyone, see you later.